the roads are windy.
Hello, this is Natalie speaking, and I'm just giving a big, huge welcome to Trudy.
Hi, Natalie. So glad to be here with you and Shawna.
Exactly. Shawna's here.
Hi, everyone. So glad you're here, Trudy.
Yay.
Oh, wow. This is going to be so fun and special. So before we get into all the magic, would you like to lead us on an invocation?
I would love to.
Right.
And for this invocation, I am going to sing my medicine song, one that came to me in about 2018, just before the pandemic. So I am standing in my power, Ashe. I am standing in my power, Ashe. I am standing in my power, standing in my power. I am standing in my power, Ashe. I give thanks to my Creator, Ashe. I give thanks to my Creator, Ashe. I give thanks to my Creator, thanks to my Creator. I give thanks to my Creator, Ashe. I am calling on my angels, Ashe. I am calling my Orishas, Ashe. I am calling on my goddesses, calling on my teachers. I am calling my helping spirits, Ashe. I bring honor to my ancestors, Ashe. I bring honor to my ancestors, Ashe. I bring honor to my ancestors, honor to my ancestors. I bring honor to my ancestors, Ashe. I send love to all creation, Ashe. I send love to all creation, Ashe. I send love to all creation, love to all creation. I send love to all creation, Ashe. I send peace to every nation, Ashe. I send peace to every nation, Ashe. I send peace to every nation, peace to all creation. I send peace to every nation, Ashe. I am love unconditional, Ashe. I am love unconditional, Ashe. I am love unconditional, love unconditional. I am love unconditional, Ashe.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Will you just sing to us for an hour?
That was beautiful. I just felt my entire body like relax and feel so welcomed into this space.
So happy. Yeah. I've been practicing my singing with my grandson, Niall. who is 3 months, and he's been singing right along with me. It's so precious. So precious.
Wow. That is so precious. I love that. Wow. I would like to hear more about your medicine song if you're willing to share. But before we go there, would you be willing to let us know about your ancestral lineages?
Absolutely. Well, I'm an island girl. I'm from the island of, and before I even speak about where I'm from, let me acknowledge the land that I'm sitting on.
Okay.
I'm sitting on Cherokee Muskogee Creek land in Stone Mountain, Georgia. So grateful for the spirits of this land for welcoming me, sustaining me, and teaching me, and even welcoming my own ancestors to this land. So yes, I'm an island girl from the island of Jamaica. Original name, Jamaica, home of the Taino and the Maroons. I do have heritage from both, as well as the British Isles, Scotland and Ireland, and Britain. And I recently found out that my father's paternal lineage can be traced back to Pharaoh Ramses III. So yes, and of course West Africa. I mean, all of Africa. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I've been on a quest of learning more about my ancestry, getting deeper and deeper into relationship with them.
Yeah. Even as you share that, I am sensing, okay, when you sang your song, I was seeing these like antique roses with yellow centers. And now I just feel like, are there ancestors present for you that you feel you would like to speak to your journey of connection with them, or just speak to them as people you admire or are grateful for? Like, there's so much about the ancestors just present here. So I just want to invite that in, whatever this, like, I'm feeling it here. I don't know. Are you feeling it?
Me or Shawna?
Both of you. You don't have to be.
Well, I just have to say this because, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but we go way back with Trudy. And I remember us talking about one of your daughters learning herbalism and like really getting into that. And I had just gotten familiarized with Kemetic yoga. And we had talked about that and talked about African herbalism, but also like where Kemetic yoga came from in the tie to Egyptian history. So I think like there's so many circles here, or a spiral, maybe a web. I don't know. It's just like there's so many things that are like where it started and where it is now. And for you to like share that you just kind of made that connection to Ramsey, and there's like there's so much to get into. So yeah.
Yes, I feel like I have been traveling the spiral road for a while now. And I have to say, it was the ancestors who called me into this. My grandmother in particular, she died in 2017. And I became a grandmother in 2018. Actually, the week she passed was the week I found out I'd be a grandmother. So a gift. She has been my rock my entire life. And it's ever unfolding, but I realized she's taught me so much. And I'll go into Daisy Evans is her name. Daisy Cameron Evans.
What is her name? Yeah.
And Natalie, you channeled Daisy once, and oh my goodness, she was speaking to me through you, and I'm so grateful. Yeah. So Daisy was a remarkable woman. I recently did my roots reading. I am a Olarisha. I am a devotee of Ifa, but we'll talk about that soon. And they told me I come from strong women, a family of strong women. We're women of the water. Yeah, we're island women of the water, women of the moon. We gathered under the moon. Daisy was a strong woman. She came from a family, it's her heritage that's of the British Isle and Native American and African as well. Her parents were biracial couple. Her mother couldn't visit her in-laws' home because she was too dark. She wasn't accepted. But the children could visit. Daisy grew up wild and free on a farm. They raised cattle. Her dad was, the story goes that her dad was an alcoholic and gave the deed of the land in one of his drinking, gambling expeditions, and they lost their fortune. And she was raised without an education. I remember coming home from school and she'd be on the veranda. And before I even put my bags down, she'd call me. We were living with aunties, cousins. It was a big house, and we all lived together, multi-generational. So it felt like a little village within itself. But she'd call me and she'd have a letter or her Bible that she'd ask me to read. There was a trust that she had with me, even though, I wanted to go play with everybody else. There was an understanding between us, and I would sit and read her letters or write her mail, whatever it was that she had to do. Didn't realize she was teaching me how to teach my own children one day. She would sit on the veranda, which was her favorite spot, watching the breeze go by, feeling the breeze, watching the trees. She would know when we're having a visitor over without a phone. She'd say, go straighten up the place, somebody's coming. And the funny thing about her, whenever there was trouble in the family, the veranda was her spot. But whenever there was trouble, she'd call me and we'd go through the lanes to this little church around the lane. And this church was a hidden gem. It was frowned upon to attend this church. Most people would hide and go to the church. But my grandmother, with dignity, held her head straight, erect, and would walk through the lane, which is in the hood, in the ghettos. And we'd go to this church, and it was a revivalist church, a Pentecostal church. There were drums, there was incense, there were colors, there was music. And I didn't understand what was going on because I was in a Catholic school. I was going to Catholic school, but she had a relationship with this pastor. And it's now that and funnily, his name, he was called leader. He was the leader of the church. His name was Pastor Lindsay. When I started hearing the ancestors call, it was him who showed up for me first. And I didn't understand at the time. I knew it had to do with my grandmother, but I'm coming to realize now that they had, she was grooming me in essence. Yeah. So she called me into this relationship with the ancestors. So I'm grateful for Daisy, and she shows up for me. She's here on my altar. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I put it closer if you can to the camera.
There she is.
Oh, cool.
That's my Daisy. Yeah.
Wow.
It's always with me.
As you were speaking about the church, I could hear the like tambourine and then like stomping, like, and I just imagine just like this like little house, like literally just moving, like the movement of spirit, but like moving because of everybody celebrating.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I remember just standing there, you know, as I look back on my life, which I've been doing a lot lately. I have always stood in the role of a witness. Yeah. Early childhood trauma silenced me. And I felt safest just observing, quietly observing, you know. So even in the church, so I've been getting lots of snapshots that I've taken along with my journey. And I'm like, oh, that's what that is. And I'm so grateful for Spirit for capturing these moments or allowing me to capture these moments. I was on a mushroom trip on Sunday. And a moment that came back was of myself and my grandmother again, and my grandfather. This time we were on vacation in Jamaica, in Ocho. And it was this blue and white church, and the windows were open and the sea breeze was blowing right through. And I knew that I was reminded that in that moment when I captured that picture, I knew one day they wouldn't be there and I'd have to hold on to this, because I'd never been in church with the two of them together before. So that was a moment that needed to be captured. So I hadn't remembered that in a long time. So I'm glad I get to share it here.
Yeah. And if you're willing, like, what did that bring up? I mean, that sounds so potent to recall that memory after decades of it kind of waiting.
Thanks for that question. In a couple of weeks, we will be, my ancestors and I will be in church together as my grandparents welcome their first child, first of 9, my aunt. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll all be gathering. So that was a reminder of that moment, that they'll be with us. And the blue and white church. Blue is our family color. Yeah. So that was significant. And I just realized.
Oh, just now. Wow. Yeah.
I'd love to offer a reflection if you're open.
I'd love that, Shawna.
So you had mentioned, like, for a really long time in your life, feeling as though you're a witness. But, you know, being a founding member of the collective, and seeing, in the beginning, you almost would never turn your camera on. As though you are just witnessing, you're hearing, and then over the years, you started showing up more. And now, as soon as you join, you turn your camera on and you share about your life, and you're here with us today, sharing your voice and willing to be seen. And you're teaching at conferences and doing all these different things where you're no longer the witness, you are the teacher. So I'm wondering if you'd be down to share, like, what did that journey look like to reclaiming your full self and like stepping out of being a witness and being seen and heard?
So grateful for this question, Shawna, because I have you too to thank. Yeah. And again, the spiral and the circles, and Natalie's Dream, Freedom, Beauty podcast was the very first podcast I listened to at the time. I think this was like 2016 or so.
That's when it came out.
Yeah. I was a super exhausted homeschool mom. I completely forgot who I was. I was just totally focused on the kids and the family, trying to keep everybody together. I lost myself. And and it's so funny that it's 2016 and my grandma passed in 2017. So you held me. You held me, and I see now that it was such a gift from her, probably, that I was seeking sustenance, and I turned on the I remember, just okay, let me listen. I don't remember exactly what it was, but whatever it was grabbed me, and I was like, that inhale. And my chores were lighter because I was listening. And my eyes became brighter, and the dots began to connect, and memories and flashes. And yeah, this is how I used to feel. I remember when those things would come, and I was so hungry for what you were talking about. And when the collective came, opened up, I was like, another breath. Can you tell I do that often? Yeah. I was like, no, that's not for me. They know so much. I know nothing. And somehow I knew I ought to, and I did. And I'm so, so glad I did. And you're right, Shawna. I didn't know if I had anything to contribute. I didn't know how I didn't know how to show up for myself. I was showing up for everybody else, and I didn't know how to show up for myself. And you both were so warm and welcoming. And when I spoke, you actually asked me questions and gave me reflections. And I'd never had that before, and I kept coming back and being brave enough to turn on the camera and say a few more words than usual. And I found that in speaking, I learned so much from you, but then being able to speak it out was like, wow. Even singing, I remember when I was not in high school. I went to dance school. After high school, I went to dance. I studied dance. And they were having a pantomime and needed dancers and singers. And I so wanted to audition. but I couldn't, my voice just wasn't there. I froze. I could not step forward. So I have been, and I'm grateful for you for helping me find my voice, giving me the opportunity to speak. Because for so long, even as I was homeschooling my kids, we were in an environment that was predominantly white and Christian. And we were always the one Black family, so I wasn't used to being seen or given the opportunity to speak. So this was a new space for me. Yeah.
Yeah. We're immensely grateful that you were brave enough. I mean, when Trudy speaks, you better buckle up because you're about to hear some magic. So, yeah, and I swear, also for anyone listening who just like, what's the collective? It's a membership we started, Shawna and I co-created. And it's something that, we met as a community every week for years and years. Now we meet every month, but it got a lot of us through that. We started it before the pandemic, and it got a lot of people through the pandemic with just a shred less messed up, whatever, shred less torn up.
Well, that was a pivotal time for me, and it was, I can't imagine going through that time without the collective. I remember we were we talking about crisis or chrysalis in collective?
Oh yeah, and like the mush stage.
Yeah. Oh, that's what the pandemic was for me. And I was determined to make this my chrysalis. And yeah, so again, full circle from being silent to now speaking with you here. It's such a big moment for me. And it goes back to now finding out who my oldest known ancestor, Pharaoh Ramses III, who was killed by the cutting of the throat. And I find this to be a gift, to be able to now find my voice at the same time I'm finding out about him. I feel it's now my responsibility to speak for my ancestors, not just for myself. Speak for the many who didn't have an opportunity to speak, my grandmother included.
That's really powerful. My whole body just got chills. And I would love to hear you speak about, like, what was that defining moment of you saying, you know what, no more. I'm no longer going to sit in the background. I'm going to claim my life because, and I'd love for you to share, like, maybe how did you show up before you felt like I'm no longer a witness, but now I'm stepping into being a teacher? And like, how do you identify and show up now?
So I remember when I was homeschooling the girls, wondering what my life would be like after, they've graduated and gone off. And I was terrified because my goal in homeschooling, I wasn't the person to go save the trees, to run out and, do the big thing. But I was committed to nurturing and guiding young women who would be able to make a difference in the world, to speak up in a way that I didn't, or I wasn't able to. So as the observer that I was, I saw so many potential that just frazzled. So many, even within my family, so many beautiful souls with great potentials, but because they don't have the access or they don't have power, or they never manifest their destiny. I didn't want that for my children. I know they're meant for greatness, as their ancestors are great, as I now know their ancestors are great, despite the lies that we've been told. So yeah, I was terrified. I said to myself, what can I do? Because according to society, I'm too old to go back into the workforce. It was dread. And I said, oh, maybe I can be a nanny. I know how to take care of kids. But then over the pandemic, when I said, I'm going to make this a chrysalis, this is going to be a chrysalis moment, I didn't know where to turn or who to turn to. So I just started sitting with the ancestors, because I have an altar, but I'd never really sat with them. And I just started sitting. Oh, I think I'd taken Daniel's course. Yeah. So I just started sitting, not knowing what I was doing, just sitting there and sitting and sitting and sitting until things started moving. And I did tell you I danced, right? So, and the lies I tell or used to tell myself that I wasn't doing big things. I had a women's circle at a church, no less, where we were dancing for over 10 years, and it's on the dance floor in the church, where we had the children as even teaching Sunday school. Not the Sunday school that they would have wanted me to teach, but in a healthy way. Yeah, because I was dancing with my ancestors in that room several times a week. They'd meet me there, and they'd help me. Oh, they've been my therapy, my therapists. I've never been to therapy. I did once when I'd get messages and not know what they were, and wanted validation from somebody that I must be crazy or something. But I know now that they were speaking to me, and the therapist said, you don't need to be here. I was getting messages for my oldest. She was going back to school, and I kept hearing a lamb to the slaughter, a lamb to the slaughter. And I didn't know what it meant. And everybody else, and there was no support. I didn't have you to confirm for me what I was hearing. Like Shawna, I recently remembered that for Abby, I'd heard ever since she was a kid, a baby, school is not for her. And to rewind now for her walking away from college, determining that school is not for her after all this time, it's like, no, it's making sense. But anyway, yes, sitting with the ancestors. I mean, they've been my rock, and I have my rock here. They've been my rock. And I'm just now getting clarity on how they've been guiding my life, because it's over the pandemic that I'd been hearing whispers of doula for the longest time, even before I knew anything about doula. And they've invited me into supporting people through birth and death, these wonderful portals of life. Yeah, so many journeys. And now I'm studying with the elders, the indigenous elders, how to walk behind my prayer, how to be a minister of walking prayer, holding the first people's, original people's prayer for not just this generation and our ancestors, but the next 7 generations. Yeah.
Yeah. The doula, and both being a birth and death doula, such a, that is the realm of the ancestors welcoming people, and right? Like that. It's so cool. Yeah. I'd love to hear about the doula work you do, and even what were those whispers you were hearing, and how were you hearing them? And, how has that doula journey unfolded? What does it look like and felt like?
It's funny. So, I can tell you about my birth, my deliveries. My first daughter was my anchor baby. I was a reluctant immigrant, have always been, because I know now that separation from land is a deep wound. And I recognize that as I witnessed in my youth. I was sent because I didn't consent here after high school, removed from my family, all I knew, to live with my dad, who I didn't really know. And it was difficult. It was difficult. I remember hiding my visiting, and the day I was supposed to return, I hid my passport and ran away to my friend's house and hid for 2 days because I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And I've witnessed how that because my generation is the first ones. We're the first ones to arrive here. So I've now seen the damage that separation from land does to a people.
Even is it okay if I just pause us here for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just taking a moment, and with the listeners too, to just notice. I know when you say that, I notice in me almost like a piercing jolt in my core, like that wounding. And I don't know. I just want to pause and allow people to notice that, and not to fixate. It's an invitation, and if you would like to, and just notice that it's a real wound. Yeah. Now, if any of you want to share if you're noticing anything when that came. I mean, for me, that was just like, wow. if anything was coming up for either of you that you want to share.
I've been so far removed from the land, that I belong to. My mom is an immigrant as well, so she is first American from Germany on her side. But what came up for me was like sadness, not just for you, for your ancestors, for the land that you came from, but also for your daughters. Mm. And just this deep, profound sadness and, just sensing like a connection that not only you may have wanted for them, mm-hmm. but perhaps that they're starting to reconcile for themselves that they wanted and maybe didn't know they needed.
Yeah, Shawna. Mm. Yes, I feel that so much. Yeah, our last visit to Jamaica as a family, that was so evident. And it was heartbreaking to see them try to process. They asked, why are we here? Why? And I hear that resonate throughout, other family members. It's funny, there's a meme that Jamaicans are here to work and have vacation and go to Jamaica to vacation.
And when you say here, you mean in the United States. They were asking, like, why are we here and not in Jamaica?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The pull is so strong. I remember when I go back, the land welcomes me in a way that is so sensuous. My feet tingle, the bottoms of my feet tingle, wakes up. From the rocks, the mountains, the land. Yeah. Going home fills me in a way. And I think now that I am more aware of my ancestors and in relationship with them and the spirits of the land, now that I have awakened my senses, I feel it so much when I go home. The mountains envelop me. They almost consume me. I feel them so close.
I even know if I just want to name them and invite them in if you like. I mean, just such beautiful beings. And I've never even met them, but just feeling that and feeling that love you have and they have for you. Mm-hmm. Inviting them into this space.
Thank you. And I can even call out a particular mountain that I just learned. So I think I shared this with you. At the beginning of the year, I went home for my birthday, not knowing anybody of my father's Ramses lineage. Again, not know, because my dad's dad died when he was only 6 months. And funnily, both his parents are Williams. And so I didn't know that the family I knew as his wasn't his dad's family. I always thought it was his dad's family because their name is Williams. It was recently that I found out my grandmother's maiden name was also Williams. So I really didn't know my dad's family. But they're from James Mountain. That's what I learned when I went back. And I was able to see my grandfather's gravesite and my great-grandmothers and family who I didn't know I had. I visited my ancestral lands for the first time. My birthday this year.
Wow. And like ancestors that you didn't even know
Didn't know I
they were
had.
there or that you had. Yeah.
And then they
Wow.
further gifted me Ramses.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And with Nile, with the coming, with the return of this powerful boy.
Your grandson.
His name is Nile,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Not intentional, you know?
Yeah.
That name. Again, he's teaching me so much. And as to what Shawna was speaking about, years ago when we were talking about Kemet, and now finding out my relationship to Kemet and the Nile River Valley, and it's just opened up another spiral for me to walk.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thanks for taking that little detour down into that connection with the land. And I love how it kind of spiraled around itself to this beautiful reconnection with the ancestral lands in James Mountain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And up in James Mountain, that's the maroon side too.
What does
that's
that mean?
A whole nother history. The Maroons were African people who fled the plantations and hid in the mountains.
Wow.
Yeah. And they fought the colonizers, actually. They're sovereign people in Jamaica.
Wow. That's awesome. So coming back to your doula journey and talking about your own eldest daughter's birth after
that's right.
were sent here, and would you like to continue that story?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
No, I totally steered us on this. This is how we do it here.
Yeah.
This is how we do it.
All right. So yes, I came to have her and return back home. So I didn't have insurance. I came through the system. So I experienced the basest of care. And I did it alone as well. I birthed alone because I didn't have family here. I came and stayed with a friend of a friend, just to have the baby and come and go back home. So I had her, my first child, all by myself. So that experience made me know that, support is so necessary during childbirth. I ended up with a cesarean. It was a teaching hospital. Nobody was there to tell me, you have choice. Students were coming in and out. I thought that was the practice because this is the United States of America. And of course, I'd get the best care. That's, what we think outside of the States. Because, of course, this is the land of opportunity and everything is great, right? I was so disillusioned. So, yes. So I know the system, and I knew that. So, yeah. But the word doula had come to me through my grandmother because she birthed 9 children, as I mentioned, with women, not at a hospital. They called it a nursing home back then, but it was a house with women tending each other. And she may not have said the word, but somehow that whisper was there. And so with my second daughter, I had a doula. But again, I didn't know the system that the doctor, put my trust in the doctors. Laugh now. When I was in my third trimester, I think he said, I don't think, I was trying to do a VBAC. We're not going to be able to do that. I didn't know that he wasn't looking out for my best interest.
And a VBAC is a vaginal or
Right.
cesarean. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've never birthed my children. And I didn't realize the impact that has on my body, or the necessity of my body to have actually pushed these children through naturally, until I did my first LSD trip. And I spent all that time pushing. It was, and my body's moving. I felt, yeah, it was amazing. I didn't know my body needed to do that. And that was just a couple years ago.
Wow.
So I had the beautiful experience. So since I didn't get to physically deliver my children naturally, I made sure that when they're, my oldest two, I made sure they had a doula present at their birth. And then I was the doula present at Niall's birth, which was absolutely amazing. And I was holding Danny as she pushed him out. So we birthed him together this time, and it was absolutely beautiful. We had a circle of women because unfortunately, natural birth isn't as common as it ought to be, especially in the hospital setting. This is a hospital setting. Yeah.
And that's something that not a lot of people are even aware of unless they've had a kid. And even then, after they've had a baby in a hospital, they're like, wait, I didn't know that there were other options. And I'm not saying anything's wrong or bad or anyone chose wrong. It's just the menu is not presented.
Exactly.
Shawna, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think what's coming up is like you learning that you have a choice, and you being able to teach your daughters that. And I think that's something that's really profound with mothers. And being pregnant myself now, I'm learning that because my mom is presenting, hey, here's what I went through with all 3 of my births. And here's what your grandma went through. And here's what other women in your lineage went through. So here's what you're going to need to consider that the doctors aren't going to tell you. So I think that's beautiful. But also, I'm curious if you can explain what a birth doula is for those who may not know. Maybe they're hearing about it for the first time, or maybe they've always felt this calling. And, let's explore that a little. Wait,
Shawna, you just dropped a major event that you're pregnant. I mean, I knew this, and Trudy knew this, but like publicly, people didn't know that you're pregnant. So I know everyone wants to know, when are you due? What are you willing to share? What's up?
Sorry, y'all. I want to keep a light on Trudy.
No.
I'm pregnant. Having a girl, and I'm due in April, and we're over the moon. This is our rainbow baby. So, there's so much of what you're sharing that, like, honestly, I kind of want to cry. Like, I can feel this, like, these tears and like emotion welling up because, now being with child and experiencing what I have, and, I don't even really fully know what's in store for me, but I have an idea. And, you know, being without care, like, I felt such sadness with you sharing, like, you don't, like, not having family here, not having access to healthcare, and being in this strange place and being alone and going through something like your first birth of a child. I say this with such love because sometimes I feel some type of way when people tell me that I'm strong, right? Because I have to be strong. It's not that I want to be. Like, I don't always see that as a compliment, but for you to, like, go through what you have gone through and still being such a light in this world for not just your daughters, but for so many, for me, for our community, for those around you. I'm trying to think of another word other than strength. You are a vision, you know? You are wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for showing up and continuing to show up no matter what you've gone through to get to this point, because you're showing so many people a way that maybe they haven't seen or couldn't see.
Thank you so much, Shawna, for that. For so long, I never saw it either. My eyes weren't. Remember, I told you, Earth Speak helped make my eyes brighter because of that dulling over time. And as we walk through these hills and valleys of life, you know, my eyes certainly were dim. And I didn't realize how much spirit was walking beside me through it all, you know, the hardships, you know, being alone and pregnant and dreaming, you know, dreaming. That, I think that's what kept me keeping the dream. And choice is such an important thing in my journey because I didn't realize I had choice because I wasn't taught that I have choice, you know, from childhood. And that's one of the reasons why I am a doula too, because I want to support families, not just through pregnancy and birth, but through life. Because birth is a natural and beautiful rite of passage. But we tend to forget the family and the children after birth. And yes, I do want to support you through that beautiful moment, but I also want to walk with you and remind parents, families, how valuable, how brilliant these returning ancestors are, what gifts they are, what gifts they bring, what gifts they hold, and how we can nurture it, you know. And my girls have taught, being with them have taught me so much. I re-educated myself with them, alongside them. And the strength that you say I have, it's because of them, because I have to be able to look in their eyes and be a good reflection, you know? Yeah. Because they'll certainly, if my mirror is dirty, they'll certainly show it in their own behaviors and in their life. I don't know if that answers your question. But I can also tell you about the death doula portion, why I
Yeah.
So I witnessed death didn't come to our family till late in my life, you know. As I said, this aunt who passed is the first of the 9. So we've been blessed in that way. But when my grandfather was on his last days, I was with him and I caught a glimpse of the transition, you know, the letting go. I was with him as he was letting go, and I recognized that he was leaving.
How did you what did you notice? What were the glimpses you were catching?
The day I was with him in the hospital, he was asking me to pass things for him. He was packing, but there was nothing there. And, you know, give this to Mr. So-and-so. And I was like, yes, okay, you know, indulging him. So I recognized that. And I remember telling as I think my husband wanted me to do something, and I was like, my grandfather is dying. And I was like surprised that came out of my mouth because I didn't know for sure. And then the following day he passed. But he was alone, and that really broke my heart because we are a big family. I told you we're a village. And he was alone, and I couldn't reconcile that in my heart. And yeah, that shouldn't be. Nobody should die alone. And hearing about it over the pandemic, that so many people are dying alone, that really stirred me. And I said, okay, I'm going to be a birth doula. Why not birth and death? Because I feel like these are some of our most vulnerable moments. Yeah. And I had the opportunity to companion. This is a new path that I'm walking. So, you know, in June, I was blessed and initiated into both this new journey of mine with the birth of Nile and the passing of my father-in-law. So I was able to hold the family through these times, and it's remarkable. It's so beautiful to see the impact, support, and presence, and compassion, and kindness. How these threads weave such a beautiful tapestry between worlds.
Would you be willing to share an example or a story of that from this past June?
It's so much, and it's continuing. It's such a there's so much fluidity. It's amazing. Like I tell you, the gifts that Niall keeps giving me through his singing with me, through him, the co-regulation that we have with each other, him bringing me back into the moment when I wander off in my head. He'll call me back to the present. But particularly with I can share too that with my aunt, I've been holding interceding on her behalf as she transitioned, because the pain, the wound, the removal of peoples from their land, that wound, it runs so deep. It runs so deep. I see it traveling through her generation, her descendants. So prior to her passing and continuously, I still continue to hold both her spirit and that of her children and grandchildren, for continued healing.
I recall this when your father-in-law was passing, you had shared a story about a tree. And I think it was a tree in your backyard or some sort of do you remember this at all? It was like a sign for you.
I remember that. But there is a tree in my backyard, a special tree in my backyard that speaks.
What's the significance? Yeah. I remember something came through this tree to kind of signal to you that you were meant to be the one to help your father-in-law with the transition. And I think, I share this because sometimes signs are so subtle, but you've done so much work to attune yourself to know when things are coming through, giving you permission to answer the call.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the tree, though, even though I don't recall that. But with both my grandparents, the birds came to tell me that they were going to pass. And I know now after my grandmother passed what it is, because I didn't understand at first. But again, thanks for the company I keep. Thanks to the company I keep, I now know a little more than I did back then. But with both my grandparents, the birds come. They come banging on my windows. I remember the first time with my grandfather when they were telling me, I'd go out and ask what's going on, I had no clue. And it wasn't until my grandmother's passing that I said, they'd come back again. That's what it is. So now I know what that means. Yeah.
Do you feel like this is your last life?
You must have overheard my conversation with Abby a couple weeks on the mushroom trip. I'm like, this has got to be it.
I just sense this or rather I see you, but I see this for myself too, where after, you leave this human form, you go on to help those transition and to help your lineage in such a capacity that I think is needed, and that might have taken our ancestors such a long time to realize, within the lessons that we go through after we pass. And so, yeah, I was just really curious of how you felt about that.
Yeah. I just had that conversation with Abby, and I truly believe that's the path I am on. I really am all in, committed to lay it all out right now. Yeah. I keep saying every day I'm so full. It's to the point I'm overflowing.
I'd love to hear you speak about any revelations you've had in, doing the work that you've done to feel this sense, and dare I even say, perhaps liberated in some aspects of who you are now versus who you were. How has that impacted your daughters? And has it had any, noticeable differences for them?
Absolutely. The biggest thing is they know who they are. And I am in awe of that. I am in awe of that. And I've always told them that they must be here to do great things because Spirit is pushing their mother to learn so much, to give them, the tools that they need, because it's still not about me, it's about them. I have just so much more, and I'm giving it my all. But yeah, what I do is for them, for the children, and Nile and Kai, and yeah. But just the difference is now I know that I can tend to myself. I have that choice to tend to myself. I've learned to put my oxygen mask on first. I never did that. I used to be like, what? No, give the children first. But I can't give to them if I don't give to myself. I took a long time to learn that.
Something that I see for your daughters, having had really deep conversations with one of them in particular, I think what I found truly profound is that given everything you've gone through in your life and everything they've gone through along with you, and being, Black women in America, the fact that they don't feel oppressed. Now, I can't speak for all of them, but, one of them in particular, I thought was just pretty incredible because of her age and how young she is. And part of the light that I see she brings is a different perspective, and being able to show her community a different way forward and empowering them to realize you don't have to stay here. You have other opportunities, there are choices. So I think you teaching them that they have choices and that they can stand in their power and feel empowered is a really big blessing in of itself.
Yeah, I'm super grateful for that because it's so necessary in this world that we live in. I certainly wasn't gifted that philosophy. I was telling her, we had this thing, you take what you get and you satisfy with it. And that's how I thought life was. Whatever your lot, that's it. So glad that's not true. And I've had to shed so much of that old belief system that I was bred with.
The word that keeps coming to my head again and again is contribution. Contribute, just as Shawna was speaking to earlier with strength. And I don't know if this resonates for you, but yeah, that just your being and your experience is a contribution to your daughters, but I have received you as a contribution to my life, and I witness it being a contribution, just you being, there's this just keeps coming in my head. So just going to share it. And it doesn't even have to resonate, but yeah.
Thank you. Contribution. Yeah, I'm not here just for me. Definitely, I am here to serve, and wholeheartedly, I'm here to serve souls.
Like a soul tender.
Soul tender. Yeah, I love that.
You're like, welcome to Earth from the land of the ancestors. And then you're like, all right, goodbye from Earth and welcome to the land of the ancestors.
Yeah.
And that's your business name.
Wow. There's just so much. And there's so much. I mean, obviously, I'm like, when's the Trudy show going to come out? Because I would like to request that. And I know how brave and courageous you were just to come on this show today and share. And I know how I have so many more questions and I want to hear so many more stories. And I think even just wrapping this up, a couple things come to mind, and we can all collectively talk about where we'd like to go to wrap it up. But a couple things come to mind. One would be, is there anything that you haven't shared that you really want to share? And two, I think I just want to name that we did not bring you on this show. It's for you to be a advertisement for the collective. And you've also, that was just a beautiful gift and bonus to receive that reflection back from you. And also you've been through so much training as well. Like you've been busting your butt to not only do your personal work, but engage in learning skills. And like, I'd love to hear some of that journey too. So whatever direction you want to go, or both or it's different, I don't care, but this is what's coming up for you all.
All right, so I can touch on that. So I remember I told you I went to Catholic school. My very first ambition was to be a nun. I think in my past life I had, because I do recall dreams, of long dark passageways and cloisters, and yes. So I wanted to be a nun, but I knew I wanted to be a mother. That was so important to me. And growing up, all the children in the neighborhood would find my house. I just always had kids around me, but I also wanted to, so in my heart, I know I made a pact that I wanted to be a mother first. And as the kids are growing, I am devoting my time to serving, serving the divine. And this is my moment. And my chrysalis afforded me the time that I needed to study. Study things that I enjoyed for a change. It wasn't the curriculum for the kids anymore. This was for the very first time in my life, I turned attention toward myself. But in turning my attention toward myself, I turned attention toward the Divine Mother. And I'm just noticing within that too, I see the Russian dolls, Yeah. That contribution, that gift, that keep giving, that overflow. And nothing is by chance. I'm finding everything has been by design. My walk, my path, the meandering path. It has all been ordained. I remember in high school, Mother Teresa visited, and I had to go greet her and at least touch her hand. You know, she's one of the ones on my altar as well. So, in essence, I've been guided. I've been guided to the courses. I've been guided to the different pathways, and I have no idea where they're taking me, but I'm willingly going. I'm saying yes, because what else is there to do? And I'm thrilled. And a huge gift that I was given is my relationship with Ifa. And my name, Titilayo, that Ifa gave me. I am overflowing with joy. That's my name. And as long as I have breath, I will be everlasting joy. And that's my contribution, yeah.
Mm. And that name, does that name mean everlasting joy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I love how at the beginning you're like, yes, we'll come back around to Ifa, and here we have. Yeah.
So Ifa has allowed me to live myself fully. And I love that. Live myself fully. Yeah. And that's the gift of doulaing, both life and death. I learned to live fully.
Natalie was speaking before about contribution, and if I may share the gift that you've given me, just being in community with you. When we really started our collective calls and being in community, I was going through a really tough time with my identity and having to reconcile, how I was taught to identify and how I really identify now. And, being raised as a Black woman, culturally, but also, ethnically, but being told that I'm not enough to show up and claim these spaces. And, we would have these conversations, and I felt like you would give me the space, but also like the validation. You were saying that we would give you validation, but you would also in turn give me so much validation, and just saying like the permission to claim all of me and whatever parts of me that resonate. And that means, and also meant so much to me, because this was a time where, so many of my own sisters were telling me that I don't have the right. And so I thank you, because I don't know if I could have gotten to the point of really exploring my identity, but also like your encouragement of working with the ancestors to understand who am I and what is my rootedness, and the reflections that you have shared back to me is a big part of why I feel belonging today. So I just want to thank you for you showing up for community and the gift that you've given me, because I will be forever grateful for that.
Oh, Shawna, I love you so. And you are amazing. And I remember witnessing you as you walked through that. It wasn't a trial, but it was trying times as you walked through that.
In many ways, and I'm just now kind of making this connection, but it was the birth of an identity. Because the identity that I held on to for so long is no longer the identity that I have belonging in today. So I think that there's many versions of birthing, right? And
yes.
You, without knowing, you helped me birth that. So thank you for being my doula.
Anytime, dear Shawna, anytime.
I love that. And even I imagine, Shawna, do you see any part of that being a death, a death of an identity too, from which that other aspect of identity or new identity was birthed? I mean, I can't help but see them so entwined.
Yes, always.
Yeah, I think that there's parts of that are always dying because there's so many layers to unravel. And I think that the parts that weren't serving me, that were keeping me back from being able to also serve my community and show up in the ways that I'm meant to show up, those definitely did die. And I did feel like I had to go through this grieving process for that. Yeah, for sure.
Not have one without the other, eh?
But that's that spiral. I mean, you said full circle, life, death, full circle. That's full spiral there, right?
Yes.
There's so much richness just from this one conversation. I'm like, all right, here's 10 other conversations.
We can do that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Add identity doula to your resume.
Identity doula. I know. I'm like, I'm writing down things where I'm like, permission to claim all of you. I'm like, live yourself fully. Like, these are your messaging. You got it all right here. Wow. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share? And also, how can people get in touch with you and inquire about working with you or share how you have contributed to their lives? Where might people be able to do that?
I do have a website, Truly Sacred Circles. Yeah, and on Instagram.
All right, great. And same on Instagram.
Same on Instagram. Yes, I'm a newbie to all this, but yeah.
If they could contact you from their website and
yes,
get in touch. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to ask too, for those who might feel, because I think that both birth and death simultaneously are overwhelming and can be intimidating. So for those who are feeling like they could benefit from your services or even benefit from just connecting with you, what is that permission to reach out, and how do they even get started? What do they even ask for?
Well, it's not only birth and death doula that I do. I do hold space for any and everybody going through hardship, or anyone who just like reflective listening and guidance. And yeah, all that's on the website as well. Is that what you're asking, Shawna?
Yeah, and like, what do they say when they reach out to you? Like,
oh, what did they say?
Yes. Like, I'm awkward. So like, I'm like, I know I need this, but I don't know what to say because this is the first time I'm ever reaching out in this capacity. So like, I guess I'm just, for those who feel like they need permission and a little more guidance of how to even ask you for help. How would you guide that?
Wow. I just step onto my veranda. I'm taken right back to Jamaica, to my grandmother sitting on the veranda. Step onto my veranda. Let's sit and have a chat. Watch the cool breeze go by as it rustles through the trees. Let's just sit and be together.
That couldn't be more perfect. I hope you get some emails or messages that are like, I'm stepping on your veranda.
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, anything else, y'all? Anything else you want to share in the space before we say goodbye?
I'd like to give thanks to my ancestors, to my grandmother Daisy, who invited all these wonderful people to her veranda and mine. May you come and may you receive the blessings that you are deserving of. And I'm so grateful for you, Natalie, and you, Shawna, for extending this invitation to sit with you. I'm so glad I did.
We're so glad you did too. Thanks for letting us sit on your veranda and hang out.
Yay. Anytime.
Thank you. Yes. And thank you for being you.
Thank you. My fairy godmothers.
That's amazing. Yes. Shawna, anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
I just love you, and I love witnessing your path, and thanks for sharing your story and sharing with our audience who you are and showing up.
I love you both so, so much.
I love you. Oh, such a gift. Yes. Well, with that, we'll say thank you. Thank you, Trudy. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, all those amazing beings who have been with us in this conversation. And can't wait to see you again soon.
Yeah.
Be well. Thank you.
All the roads are winding.
Listen to over 200 free Earthspeak podcast episodes on your favorite podcast app and visit earthspeak.love to learn about our collective community and workshops.